Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. Having the right pH is critical for plant health. Today we're going to spread sulfur to lower the pH in our garden. Also, fish can add interest to a large or small water feature. That's just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Mr. D. Mr. D is a retired UT Extension agent, and Andy Williams will be joining me later. Always good to see you, Mr. D.
Glad to be here.
So we're in the Family Plot garden. We're going to talk about soil pH. Why is soil pH so important?
pH is important because without the correct or near correct soil pH, all of the nutrient absorption is interfered with.
Okay.
If you can have proper NPK, nitrogen, potash, phosphorus, can be correct, everything can be right. If the pH is wrong, it makes no difference. The plants will look like they're starving to death.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it's a vegetable garden, it could be blueberries or whatever. You have to have the appropriate
Got to
pH.
have the right pH.
Right.
And with most plants need a slightly acidic pH. 7 is neutral. Yeah. So a slightly acidic pH would be 6 to 6.5. There are some acid-loving plants like blueberries and azaleas that the pH needs to be even lower, 4.8. Most of the time with vegetable gardens, I find myself adjusting the pH by trying to raise it because it tends to get more acidic over time. That's just the way, especially when you add fertilizers, and they tend to lower the soil pH. If you happen to have a wood-burning fireplace or a fire pit, and you routinely add your wood ash to your garden, it has the same effect as lime. Right. It has quite a bit of calcium in it. Right. So you can get into trouble by doing that without soil testing and overdoing that by getting the pH too high. That would be what would be the situation we've got here. The pH is higher than it needs to be. Right. I think the pH here is 7.3. I
think you're right.
It needs to be 6 to 6.5. I think we're going to try to lower it to about 6.3. Yeah.
That's the big experiment, so we're going to give it a shot. So we're going to let you get started with that.
Okay, we're going to treat half of this plot and see if we can see a difference next year. Okay. The reason the pH is probably high here is this is a construction site, and I understand this is where they did all the masonry work when they built this building behind us. Right. So that can explain
so that makes sense.
Why it got to that point. Okay. So what we've got here is we know that we've done the calculations, and to lower the pH from 7.3 to 6.3, we need to add 5 pounds of elemental sulfur. And the way I do that, I don't grab 5 pounds of elemental sulfur and start spreading it, because I learned that when I get about 3/4 of the way across the garden, I'm through.
You used
and I
it
put
up,
more than I wanted to put out.
Right.
So what I try to do, my goal is to put half of it out going one way, and then put the other half the other way, and then I get pretty close. Okay. That's a pretty good way to do this. We've got a set of scales here. We've got the bag of sulfur here.
All right.
I'm going to weigh out 2.5 pounds.
Right.
2.5 pounds of sulfur. See what we got here. I'm going to take this out of the garden.
That's a pretty good size.
Because we don't want to put sulfur back in the bag.
Okay.
I'll put it on the scales, and I'm going to tear it. So we got 0, 0, 0.
Sure does.
So we'll try to get some sulfur in here before the wind blows it off. And I'm looking for 2.5 pounds. 2.5 pounds, we're set on ounces. So 2.5 pounds is 32, and 8 is 40 ounces, right?
There you go.
40 ounces. Math is not my strong point.
You got it.
I think that's close enough, don't you? $39.95.
$39.95. Oh, there it goes.
40.
Hey,
Okay, the
that's
wind's
close.
doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, now if I were doing quite a bit of this, I would pick this up and shake it, and you can see what I did. I've used this for fertilizer in the past.
All right.
I've used a Sharpie, put a mark on it, so I don't have to measure it anymore. I don't have a Sharpie with him right now, so we'll have to weigh the other one out. And
Yeah.
it's faster than,
Right.
than filling it the way I just did. Okay,
All right. So which way you going?
so let me start down
All right.
here. We're using pelletized sulfur, and the wettable sulfur is another form of elemental sulfur, which is very common. Lime, I'm using both of these pH adjustment materials, comes the same way. You can get pelletized lime, which will do a lot better in windy conditions than the agricultural ground lime or calcitic limestone that's out there. But today it is windy, it's blustery. We have pelletized sulfur, and that's going to make this job a lot more accurate. I'm trying to be as uniform as possible, and sometimes that's kind of hard. Close enough for government work. That's half of it.
That's half.
of it. If I
That's
do
half.
as good
Yeah.
on the other half of this, we'll be fine. See if we're still teared. We are.
Yeah, we are.
So I remember about where it went, so.
Oh yeah, you good.
Good
You're
enough. Does that look pretty uniform?
Oh man, look like you know what you're doing.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good, pretty good. So what do we do next? I mean, does it have to be watered in or what?
It really, this sulfur is water soluble,
Okay.
and it does need to be watered in. And you got to understand, keep in mind that this is not going to change the pH overnight.
Right.
The actual sulfur itself is not what's lowering the pH. The sulfur is acted upon by bacteria, which turns the sulfur into sulfuric acid, and that is what lowers the pH. So what we want to do, we're going to water this in, and it's going to, over the winter,
Yeah.
the winter rains are
Over the
going to
rains, for
continue
sure.
moving it down through the soil structure, and while it's doing that, it is going to encounter the bacteria, and it's going to start slowly changing the pH. We should see a difference next year. The pH by the growing season next year should be getting close to the 6.3 that we're aiming for. We probably do need to check the soil again.
Yeah, so it will be checked
and
periodically.
and see what we've done.
It will be checked.
But
Right. Because this is one big experiment, right?
it's one big experiment. What we've done is we've treated this half of the garden, 250 square feet. The other 250 square feet, the pH should remain at 7.3. This, by the growing season, by next summer, the pH should be down near 6.3. If not 6.3, 6.8, 6.5, that is a lot better than 7.3. because that's slightly basic.
Yes.
You know, it's over on
It's
the
over
other
to
side of
7, which you said is the
7 is
neutral.
neutral, and it's
Right.
slightly basic. So this is this should get it into the slightly acidic stages, what we need for most of our vegetables.
Yeah, and it's definitely what the vegetables want at
That's
the
exactly
end of the
right.
day, right? So we shall see, Mr. D. We
We
shall
will.
see, as they say.
I'm looking forward to checking it out.
I am too, so thank you very much for
We have
that.
some good homegrown tomatoes here.
Oh, there you go. We have one just for you.
Yeah, sounds
there
good.
you go. All right. Do be careful when you're using weed eaters around plant material. Weed eaters can kick up rocks and debris that can injure your eyes and your face. And as you can see, a piece of mulch was actually impaled into this leaf of this canna, which is why it is always a good idea to have on glasses or safety goggles when you're using a weed eater. Again, you don't want to injure your eyes, you don't want to injure your face, and you definitely don't want to injure your plant material. Be careful, folks. Andy, we always enjoy when you're here, because you always bring us neat critters to look at, but this time you have fish.
Yeah, and not only fish, non-native fish.
Non-native fish.
Yeah, at the Nature Center, we may suggest bluegill, sunfish, bass, but for most home ponds, that's beyond the capacity of the pond, and really probably not what you want. You want something ornamental. So I'm here today to talk a little bit about ornamental fish.
Okay.
And in selecting the fish, you've got a lot of really good options for you. But one thing you really should take into mind is that size matters.
Okay.
Like, I'm talking about water features in yards with some capacity to them. Some of the self-contained fountains like that are really attractive and give really pleasing sounds of running water, but probably would not be good for fish. One of the most important things to take into account when deciding on which fish you want is the surface area, the top of the water, how much surface area that you have. That's important because that's where oxygen exchange, gas exchange takes place at the surface.
Okay.
Something else you need to consider is the volume of water that you have, because as we'll talk about a little bit later, some fish need a little bit more space to move around.
All right.
But basically, as a rule of thumb, you want to start off with no more than 1 inch of fish per 1 square foot of surface area.
Wow.
So that's pretty easy to calculate.
Okay.
You do need to know the volume of the pond, though, and you calculate that basically. You try to square it out, multiply the length times the width times the height, and then go online to find a calculator to convert those, your cubic feet into gallons. But roughly 1 cubic foot of water is 7.5 gallons.
Okay.
You'll need that for water changes and medication and such. You can stretch the general rule of thumb as far as the surface area to as much as 2 or 3 inches of fish, including the tail, per square foot. But you get in some dicey water. You want to consider not only how big the fish are when you get them, but the fact that they grow.
Get bigger, right.
So really the top 3 types of fish for home ponds are minnows, goldfish, and koi.
Okay.
And so a lot depends on the size. Starting with the minnows, they're the smallest. The best fish for, I think, for your home pond, for if you just want a few fish in there and you have a small feature, could be rosy minnows. They're readily available. There's some in the tank here.
Okay.
There are also some gambusa. Those are live bears. They look sort of like big guppies. They're particularly good at mosquito control.
Oh, good.
And even small features that maybe you have some papyrus or lotus growing in a pot with water, you'll probably want a few small minnows, nothing too extraordinary to take care of mosquito larvae and such. In fact, in any water feature, the fish are going to eat the mosquito larvae, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing, as they say.
That's a real good thing.
Probably the most popular fish, one I would hardly recommend if you have the space, would be a goldfish.
Okay.
Goldfish originated in China. They basically were in the rice paddies and saw these fish, and they picked out the most colorful ones, and they kept breeding and breeding until they get the goldfish that we know today.
How about that? Okay.
I divide them into, regular goldfish and fancy goldfish.
Okay.
What I call regular goldfish are the good old common goldfish. It's pretty plain Jane orange fish. But also in that, along the same lines, you can get comets that have long tails, and then have other types of the single-tailed goldfish that vary with color patterns. There's a lot of variability. They have orange, white, yellow, red. Also multicolored ones they call shabunkins. Wow. That have black, blue, along with the orange and red. My personal favorite, and I brought one today, he's kind of at the top right now, but is called a sarasa. It was actually, all these goldfish are Chinese. The Japanese worked on them really hard, and the Sarasa is basically a red and white goldfish.
I think that looks like orange and white. That's what Tennessee Volunteer orange and white. I think
Well, we're calling it red for that. But that's the breed. The color also depends on what you feed them. You get a lot of beta carotenoids in their food.
Really?
It brings out the red coloration.
Oh, wow.
The Japanese also went to town on a fish that we now know as koi.
Yeah, know about the koi. Yeah.
Koi are not goldfish. They're not even related.
Wow.
The Japanese started looking at brightly colored carp. Just a carp like on the dinner table, or the grass carp and that sort of stuff, and they grow to pretty good size. The carp, as you know, can go 3 or 4 feet. Typically, most koi max out at 1 foot to 2 feet, but they can grow as long as 3 feet. So obviously, if you've got a small pond, you think about minnows, you go to goldfish, and koi are really for specialists.
Okay.
They need a lot of water quality. They need depth. They need a pond about 3 feet deep, at least, for them to be have enough room to move around. And a lot of code requirements. I believe 18 inches is as deep as you can have on a pond safely without having additional requirements for fencing and such.
Okay.
Water quality with all fish is important. You can increase the amount of fish that you can have in a pond or water feature by filtration and aeration. And what that does, it helps clean the water and also increases the surface contact, with the surface area. But if the power goes out, you're kind of up a creek.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
Generally, the fewer fish that you're comfortable with, the better the fish are and you are. All of them need clean water, but the koi are the most finicky. They're terribly inbred, and so they're really delicate, and just small changes in water quality can affect them.
Okay.
One thing everyone needs to do, though, for water quality, with or without filtration, is to figure out how to regularly change out the water. Fish are the only animals that swim around their own waste, for example. And you've got a small contained area, they're exposed to their own waste.
Yeah.
Also, they grow a little bit bigger. They put out hormones and all like that sort of inhibit the growth of other fish in the tank. You've heard about fish tend to grow to the size of the container. And that's not entirely true. If you dilute the water, you're sort of increasing the size of the container continually. But keep in mind the adult size of the fish. Like I said, goldfish will max out at 10 or 12 inches, and the difference between 10 or 12 inches and 2 or 3 feet is substantial, and you just really have to keep that in mind if you get stars in your eyes about koi. You got to be willing to take it on. One question I get a lot about fish is about feeding. And
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, I do recommend feeding the fish.
Be fed.
If you just have a few fish, they can probably scrounge up enough to eat and all. But if you feed them, they will come up and recognize you, and you'll have a chance to check them out for signs of disease or distress. It's important to recognize signs of disease or stress, both in taking care of your pond and picking out the fish that are going to go in it.
Okay.
So you go to a reputable dealer and you look for fish that have erect fins, they're not gasping at the surface, and don't have any obvious blemishes or anything that would, if you see a red flag, avoid it and get another fish.
Okay. Man, do we appreciate that? I learned so much about fish. How about that, Mr. D?
Yeah, I can understand the inbreeding part. There's not a lot of choices in that. There's only like one male and one female, so
Well, actually, happy fish will breed, and their reproductive
But there's not a lot of
strategies-
choices.
I can see that.
As long as they're happy, they're fine, right?
Yeah,
Thanks,
exactly.
Andy. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right.
One of the issues that we have with some of the trees that grow together, when the limbs are close together, they have a tendency to rub. See how the close proximity of these two branches are, or two leaders? That is what we call included bark, and that's when the tree limbs, as they grow closer and closer together, and the bark gets included. It looks like it's grown together, but it really isn't. And inside there, it will have a tendency to hold water, dirt, carpenter ants, and different things like that. That's what we call a V-crotch. So if you look up in the tree, you'll see that there's a seam, and the seam goes all the way up to where the branches aren't touching. That's your included bark. The dark stain that you see there is where that water or moisture and dirt is starting to ooze out, where it's building up at the top. So it comes down as that dark, dirty water like that. If you can follow my laser pointer, the green laser pointer, this section right here where you see where that seam is, where it's the bottom of, almost the bottom of where the included bark is, that is a great entrance hole for carpenter ants and other boring insects. they can make a home right up inside there, and it's perfect for them.
All right, you ready, Mr. D?
Let's do it.
These are great questions. Here's our first via email. What is the best place to plant a Meyer lemon tree? When is the best time to plant? And this is Lee from McKinley, Florida.
Florida's the best place to plant a Meyer
Florida's
lemon
the best
tree,
place,
I'd say. The Meyer lemon can withstand, what, 20 degrees?
Yeah.
But that will prolong 20-degree temperatures will take one out.
Yep.
But best place to plant one is in full sun, good soil, well-drained soil. pH needs to be between 5.8 and 6.5.
Okay.
Plant it in the springtime. Early spring is the best time to plant. Late winter, early spring. And that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it? Okay, yeah. Get your soil tested, make sure you get your pH where it needs to be, right?
That's right. Get that pH to 5.8 to 6.5.
Yeah. How tall would they get? You know?
They get pretty big now. My really only experience with Meyer lemons has been my sister's in Caruthersville, Missouri, in her sunroom.
Right.
And it was, you know, in a pot.
Right.
But they can get to be pretty good size.
Pretty good size. Yeah, so space is something else you have to think about too, Mr. Lee. All right, so thank you for that question. We do appreciate that. Here's our next via email. Can we trim our emerald green arborvitaes to make them slimmer? And this is Ray from Bartlett, Tennessee. What do you think about that?
Ray, let's talk to your local county agent. What do you think about it?
So you know what I
Chris,
think about that? So I would be careful. I would be careful. So I would not remove more than 1/3 of that foliage per year. I would not cut into the old wood, because you cut into the old wood, guess what, you're not going to get? Foliage. Right. Get you some pruners, right? I would start at the top, narrow at the top, right? Because you want the sun to penetrate the lower canopy, right? To encourage more growth.
Yeah.
Right. So
be careful. Now 30% is quite a bit, though.
Yeah, I would be careful.
Yeah.
I'd be very careful with that. So no more than 1/3, per year. Let's start with that. Make sure you water it after you do that. Make sure you mulch, right? 2 to 3 inches. Pull it away from the trunk of the tree, right? And I think you'd be good, Mr. Ray.
I think so too.
I think you'd be good.
I think it'll work.
From
your local county agent. Take care of you. Yeah.
I think you'd be good, Mr. Ray, so appreciate that question, all right? Here's our next via email. How do I convert to a clover lawn from existing grass? Should I kill it first, or can I overseed over time? And this is David from Machini, Wisconsin. So what do you think about that, Mr. D?
I'd say you can. You would need to either kill the existing grass and overseed with clover. I would do some research on the clover. Probably wouldn't want to use white clover. In some homeowner associations, that's considered a weed, and you may have some problems violating some of your rules. And also, you would a blooming clover that blooms a lot is going to attract a lot of insects. And if you like to barefoot in the clover, you don't want to be walking around on honeybees.
Right, that's for sure.
Because they hurt.
Right.
But you can do that. Overseed after you've killed the existing grass. You might want to do something raking or aeration or something to get some seed to soil contact. But yes, you can do it. You can do it. You can overseed into the existing lawn and use a herbicide that will kill the grass, but not any broadleaf. It would leave all the broadleaves,
Sure
which
would.
will also be the weeds, the broadleaf weeds.
That's right. That's right.
Which that might be an issue.
Yeah, it will be.
Cethoxidin is a herbicide that would do that. But I think your best route is going to be to kill your existing lawn, your existing grass, and go back in with the clover.
I would do that, yeah. It's going to be the fastest method, and I would want to start with a clean slate, if at all possible. So I definitely do that. And we're talking about, micro clover. Right. According to the research, is now, replacing some of your lawn.
Right.
Right. So, I would definitely do that.
Yep.
All right. So, David, we appreciate that question.
Do that.
Good question. Yep. But I would kill it. Start with a clean slate. All right. Here's our next via email. I grow small watermelons. I harvested 2 from different plants, and they both look like this inside. What is causing this? And I know we kind of went back and forth on this one, right?
Yeah. The thing that, when I cut into a watermelon, usually if it's a seeded watermelon, I see some little white seeds, and I see some different stages and a few mature seeds. In this case, all of the seeds appeared to be fully mature. And I'm thinking that the melon was probably overripe. Both of them probably overripe. It's what it looks like to me.
That's what it looked like to me too.
Yeah.
Right.
Pick them quicker. Don't wait so long.
Don't wait so long.
Yeah,
right. Get out there and pick them. Yeah, because I'm definitely thinking, was it due to an environmental stress, too as well. Right. I definitely think it was overripened, but maybe some environmental stress, maybe too much nitrogen fertilizer. Was it too hot? Was it too much water? All at one time. So those are kind of things I'm thinking about as well.
I wonder if really hot conditions, dry conditions could have caused it to ripen quicker than normal.
Right.
I don't know.
Because at that point, the plant is stressed. So it's like, hey, we got to pump the nutrients in, we got to go. Right. So over ripening is definitely what I think. Yeah.
What it looks like.
All right. Thank you for that question. We definitely do appreciate that. Mr. D, always fun. I learned so much. We learned so much. Thank you.
Learn something every day.
Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is questions@familyplotgarden.com. And the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee, 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching. If you want to learn more about soil testing or changing the pH of your soil, head on over to familyplotgarden.com. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.